We're doing, so we continue here in Orchot Tzaddikim, page Kuf Samech Hey. Starts the beginning of a chapter. We actually did the first paragraph, and we're up to, I believe, actually we did the second as well. We're up to Kuf Samech Zayin. So this book is a list of different character traits, and positive and negative. We're somewhere past the middle in the chapter dealing with flattery. Flattery not just in the positive sense of saying nice to something, saying something nice to somebody, but flattery, saying something to get something out of somebody. Like that old tale of the fox who saw a crow with food in its mouth and coaxed the crow to open its mouth in song by praising the crow over its lovely voice. And when the crow finally was flattered enough to exercise its vocal cords, the food fell out of the crow's mouth and the fox was there to receive it. Yeah, we're talking about flattery in order to get something out of people. There are 9 forms here of flattery discusses. The first one and the second one are very negative forms where a person is flattering a wicked person. He's flattering knowing very well that this person is wicked, does wicked, has evil in mind, and the person is flattering the person just to either get something out of that person or at least to deflect harm from himself to someone else. And all of that is very bad because it gives the wicked person the feeling that they're not as bad as they really are. And that has negative ramifications. Number one, it'll cause that person to perpetuate that negativity to others. And it'll also prevent the person from doing tshuva. So it gives this person the feeling like condoning his behavior. It's okay, see, he can do whatever he wants and people flatters him. So that's the first thing. Second thing is flattering a wicked person, not necessarily for the wicked things that they do, but just flattering him in general, regarding, let's say, even the good things that he might have. The person might say, well, I'm not going to go all the way out and flatter the person over the wicked things that he does or the wicked character traits that he has. But I can at least say good things about the good things that he has, and then maybe I'll get X or Y or Z, or be able to deflect this person's insidious machinations away from me into others. That would also be wrong. Why? Because you shouldn't. Now, somebody pointed out, and it's true, that if there's a wicked person, a bad person, who you can nevertheless, let's say, point out the good points in, and say, a lot can be said about you. It's true, but if there's one thing I admire, that's your attribute of so and so. You can really aid humanity with that attributes of yours. Yeah, think about how many old women you can help cross the street with their grocery packages with those strong muscles of yours. Yeah, whatever. The point is, if you can try and say something, I don't think there would be included, and this is what this person's point was, it wouldn't be included in this, praising a person with the intention of being mekarev him to Torah, right? Which is not giving him the impression that he's okay when he's really not, but to point out that everybody's got good points, him included, and he could consider doing tshuva by capitalizing at least on that one trait of his. Okay. But in general, that's the 2 points. Flattery, either to outright flatter the person who is wicked and flatter the wicked things that he does, or even if he's not flattering the wicked things, he's just flattering the good things that he does, but he's doing it to flatter the wicked person, that's wrong. That brings us up to Kuf Samech Zayin. Kuf Samech Zayin, the first full paragraph starting with the word Hashlishi, the third form of flattery. Honef hameshabeach rasha befonov. He praises the wicked person in his face, in front of him. He says to him, Kami ish nechmad v'odam tovata. What a nice fellow you are. How good you are. Ach eino misaper b'shivcho berabim. But he doesn't praise in front of others, which is the case in the previous 2 instances, where he's praising this person even in front of others. And that's why one of the negative ramifications of that is that he's going to think he's okay in other people's eyes, and he might even justify this person's behavior in other people's eyes. Here, he's not doing it publicly, but privately. Shulei l'Rabbi mokesh. And he does this intentionally so that he wouldn't be causing a stumbling block in front of other people to kind of tacitly approve this person's behavior. This is also a very bad form of flattery. Diksiv, as it says, Befei chonef yashchis re'ehu, uvedas tzaddikim yichalatzehu. With one's mouth, he will speak flattery, which is destructive, destroys his friend. Yeah. However, through the knowledge of the righteous, one can actually save one. So if you flatter a person, you can destroy him. Why? Even if you're flattering him in person, you're still causing him to think he's okay. The wise man is able to save people from sin by pointing out their faults and showing them the right path. When he praises him, he believes him. And he'll think he really is good. His heart will be elevated and he will become haughty, thinking, here, I can do whatever I want with no compunction, and people approve of what I'm doing. And he won't do tshuva. He called me she'enu tzaddik, any person who is not a tzaddik. When you praise him, yomar b'libo, he says in his heart, humnam yadati kichenu. I know it's true. Thank you. You're just confirming what I already know. But thank you. It was nice of you. Yeah. A righteous person, when he hears his praise, he makes every effort not to take it to heart. Right? Thanks for saying that. I'll try not to take it to heart. He's not looking for flattery. And it turns out then that this person is destroyed, he's damaged because of the flattery of the other. But the righteous person, somebody praises him, he won't become proud and haughty because of this. As the sages said, even if the whole world tells you you're a tzaddik, you should be in your own eyes like a rasha. Now,
it's not like every Jewish person.
Because every person is like a Jew, is righteous, no. Or because we're self-flagellating.
Yeah, we always think we're.
Yeah, we're always at fault.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes from a good place, so that we're always looking to improve. The person has to be careful that it shouldn't become debilitating. Right? Become excessive, oppressive. But in any case, he doesn't really mean to say that a tzaddik thinks that he's a rasha. He's like a rasha. He views himself as if he were a rasha. He knows he's not a rasha. But the point is, he knows he falls very short of the mark. So no matter how much people praise him, since he feels he falls short of the mark, he's not going to become complacent in his service of Hashem, but rather he's always going to be pushing forward to try and grow. Right? That's the point. It would be silly for a righteous person to hear praise and say, you really shouldn't say that, and certainly you shouldn't think it, because in fact I'm a rasha. I mean, that's silly. He's not a rasha. And he might be doing a lot better than a lot of other people. But that's not what matters. It's how is he doing vis-a-vis himself, not vis-a-vis others. Right? So, if he's holding where he's holding, working at, let's say, 60% potential, it doesn't matter if his 60% is much more than many others' 80%. They're operating at 80%, he's only at 60%. So he's got to push himself harder and harder and harder. And furthermore, the sages said, if you've got friends, some of them praise you, and others rebuke you. Which ones should you naturally love? You should love the ones who rebuke you, because the ones who are constantly flattering you are going to make you complacent, lead you to like sitting on your laurels and not doing much to move forward. The ones who rebuke you, They're the ones who are really interested in your improvement. And that's why parents are constantly criticizing their children. Not because they don't like the children, but because of their love for the children. They want the children to grow and improve. The problem is the child doesn't realize that, and often the parent doesn't know how to criticize the child properly. So the parents end up smothering the kid. The kid feels suffocated, and before you know it, he flies the nest. Who needs this business? My parents are always on my back. They're always criticizing me. They're always telling me, I don't do this, I don't do that. I should do it this way, I should do it that way. Who needs that kind of garbage?
That's why we're at yeshiva.
Yeah. So, all of a sudden he meets up with a group of kids at school, and the kids have a very natural pastime. It's very organic, natural. Yeah. Smoke up a little weed, relax, have a good time. And these guys are great, no criticism, everybody's laid back, always a nice word to say for somebody. This is what it's like. Why can't my parents be like that? And then the kids' grades start going from B's and B minuses that he was being criticized for by his parents to C plus, but you're really trying. C, and then C minus, what's going on? D plus, this is getting stupid, right? And what's going on here? Because he's hanging out with a bunch of lazy louses who might be having, they might be great guys, have a great time in life, but it's not going anywhere, and they're not pushing him or pushing themselves. Yeah. And the truth, of course, got to be somewhere in the middle. Parents who point out to their children ways they can improve in a loving, kind, understanding way, and also give the kids some leeway to, relax and, take off some of the pressure in a healthy way. But in any case, it's hard for parents to realize that their criticism could be interpreted as anything other than love. And it's hard for the children to realize that all of that criticism is really coming from love. So there's got to be some way of finding a happy medium between the two. Ve'elu bera'ascha yismechu ki yeshabechucha. I guess there are folks who will be happy about the evil that befalls a person because of their praise of him. V'ne'emar, and it says, Ufei cholak ya'aseh midche. Somebody's trying to push you, will speak in a slippery way. Because if it can cause you to slip on his, if it can cause you to slide on his slippery tongue, then he doesn't have to push as hard. Right? So it butters you all up, slicks the way, and then, right, doesn't have to push so hard when he wants you out of his way. Himshil pei chalak lederech chalak lokos. And the sages compared this slippery tongue to like a slippery path. Ki kasher yipol ha'adam v'yitche belechtoi bederech chalak lokos. Because when a person is pushed aside by going down this slippery path, a person is pushed aside through slippery language, through slippery language, like a person who would slip on a slippery slope. It says, "U'malach Hashem doiche, hiye darkam choshech v'chalak lokos." It says, the angel of God pushes. I guess it's talking about a bad angel, the angel of death, or a destructive angel, or a harmful angel. Pushes a person, hiye darkam choshech v'chalakos, and his way will be like a slippery path. Ken yidoche ha'adam v'yipol. So too, this kind of slippery language can cause a person to fall. Shepei chalak u'molei chet v'chonef. A slippery tongue is full of transgression and flattery. V'alzei ne'emar, regarding this it says, Yachres Hashem kol sifsei chalakos, God will eventually cut off all of those people who speak in forked tongue. Loshon medaberes gdolos, and tongues that speak like, in a grandiose way, but they don't really mean it. It's just fluff. Kilel pe chalak, there's a curse against this slippery tongue. Because it causes the destruction of other people. And it also is cursed is the strong tongue. I guess it means how did we speak about the other day? Speaking softly, remember a while back? Speaking strongly.
Gentle speech.
Gentle speech, yeah, the opposite. Speaking strongly against a person.
Like aggressively.
Yeah, aggressively, thank you. V'hu lashon hara, and this also involves lashon hara. V'yesh chanefim shemachnifim leba'alei zor, you have people who are flattering, strong men. Kedei she'ahavu osam, in order that they should love them, like them. V'nasu v'yigdulu osam, and he'll raise them and elevate them. Is there a better word for this in English? Not just flattery, but again, when you're saying these words in order to, to like you're describing here, to be picked up, to be lifted up, to be elevated. Is that a word in English?
What do you mean?
Flattering a person in order to
get something out of it?
yeah, and it gets around and
Manipulating?
it's manipulative. I think you also said that, manipulation. You did the same thing. Yeah, manipulating. Flattery for manipulation is probably a specific word for that. And regarding this, our sages said, anybody who flatters his friend just to get honor, recognition, ultimately he'll die through embarrassment. Why? He's using flattery to elevate himself. Ultimately, the opposite is going to happen. He's being artificially inflated. Before he dies, his bubble's going to burst, and he'll be deflated. So don't start with that.
Deceiving, influencing, persuading? No.
Not quite. So let's say you're applying for a job, or you've just received a job, and you feel like in either scenario it's important to be amiable, be friendly, be kind, receptive. That's all true. But if you start praising the potential employer or the boss just because you want to get something out of it, so that's wrong. That's flattery. I suppose you can be honest. That's a nice tie, I don't know what type of compliment you would make, but there's certainly a difference between making a compliment and applying flattery, right? So a common, acceptable, civil compliment is one thing. If it happens time and time again, and so all of those cumulative compliments become flattery. Or it can be just one statement, which would be much more extreme than flattery itself. But an occasional, compliment within the accepted norm, I guess that's okay. In the name of being friendly, amiable, having a decent, warm relationship, that's one thing. But if a person's constantly, I don't want to use this phrase, but it rhymes with kicking up to a person, but changing the K with an L.
No.
That's wrong. Yeah, sticking up to the person. That's kind of a crude way of putting it, but that's what it is.
Something out of it.
What's that? Yeah, that's what like looking up to a person. That's what it is. You're just trying to. It's ugly too when you see that, right? When you see somebody doing that, it's like, So it's repulsive when you see that, because it is repulsive. Yeah. So this brings us up to Kuf Samach Zayin, the last paragraph at the very bottom there. Haravi, the fourth form of flattery. HaMischaber l'Rasha, one who hooks up with a wicked person. Even if he doesn't flatter him. But he wants to get all chummy with him. He's using his prospective friendship as a form of flattery without actually verbally saying anything to the person. That's also wrong. That's punishable. It's not enough that he doesn't rebuke this wicked person, but he makes it as like he wants to be his friend with him. Again, obviously he's not talking about doing kiruv in the person. If you want to do a kiruv job on the person, that's a different story. What I mean to say is, not that you should befriend him to be mikarev him, but if you are you're making an overture to him for the purpose of bringing him to Torah, that's fine. If you're doing it in a way which is like hiding the real objective, you're being chummy with him, but it's really just for the purpose of like doing kiruv on him. So that's also a form of flattery. I would seem to be, but I think it's pretty obvious. If you say, hey, if without necessarily saying it explicitly, but if in the words that you say in your actions, you say, look, there's another alternative than the way of life you've chosen, and I'd like to introduce you to that, so that's okay. But if you just want to be chummy with the guy in order ultimately to get him into a Torah class, that would be, I think, again, a type of a flattery, yeah.
But like part of sales is building relationships with people. If you work for any company, one of the things they'll tell you is like you should build a relationship with that person.
So building a relationship is okay.
With a customer.
You can build a relationship even with a customer.
But the only reason you're building a relationship is to get a sale out of it.
No, I think it's like it's mutually beneficial. They're buying, they're getting a commodity that they want. I'm hoping to convince them that this particular commodity is what they want at this particular price. But they're getting something out of it, and so am I. And I'm not using flattery, although I might use compliments and positive behavior, right? But there is a relationship there. It's true. Now, a person whose business ethic is that really I don't care anything about this person. All I care about is the wad in the back of in the back pocket. So I don't know. That's probably not the best business ethic, and many people might not feel comfortable doing business with people who have such a business ethic. Usually, right, companies that either truly train or at least give train people to truly develop a relationship with the customer, or at least give the customer the feeling that they're really interested in them as people,
exactly.
Right? You'd be better off. But obviously, right, it would be better to be genuine. If you're gonna give the person the impression that you care, wouldn't it be better just to care? They say you have to give them the customer the impression that you care. You care about them as a person, right? So obviously we don't care a whit about our customers, but it's very important to give the impression that we do. So therefore, I want you to all go out there and act like you really care. Right? That's predicated on the idea that if the person really buys into the fact that the business cares, then they'll feel good and buy. So wouldn't it be better just to educate people to try and really care? And then, right, they'll really sell. If that's the objective. Right? You want to sell, you think the best way to make the sale is to make the customer feel you care. So I'm going to teach you how to give the customer the impression that you care, even though you really don't. Why not just teach people a skill to really care? And if the idea is that the more you care, the better the buy, so the more genuine you are, ultimately, the better you sell, and the better and the better you're being about it. So good businesses are businesses where customers come back. Why?
That's true.
Right? Why? Why? Because it's nice.
You have the relationship.
Yeah. So if you want to come back because you want to have a relationship, then why can't it be genuine? Now, I'm laundering their shirts, getting paid for it, and they're getting clean shirts, and it's all with a smile. So I could fake the smile or really smile. What would be best? It's like my father. I was visiting my father in Miami. He works out in Gold's Gym. So he says, pick me up. So pick me up after davening. I said, well, I'm going to be davening, but you're going to the gym. He said, yeah, you go your davening, I'll go my davening. I said, yeah, but in my shul there's a mikveh. He says, in my shul there's also a mikveh. So I'm going to go to the swimming pool. Will you finish your davening? Pick me up after davening. So I say, okay, how would I going to know where you are? What? Ask Smiley. Is that who's that? Well, that's the name. That's the name of one of the people there. I said, how do I know? No, that's her real name. When you get there, you don't even have to ask for Smiley. Just get there and you'll see it. So I go to Gold's Gym. I think it's Gold's Gym, and they have this reception area, and I just open up the door and there's this lady behind the desk. I mean, she's smiling from ear to ear, and believe me, it was not a fake. She was so genuine. She just, and then I understood what my father was talking about. Like, she's just one big smile. Oh, you're that so-and-so, he's your father, and this and that. And we're talking and laughing. An amazing person. Amazing person. What a positive person. What a beautiful smile. And it's genuine. If I wanted to go to a gym, I'd go to that one. She's so sweet. She's so nice. Come in there, always has a nice word to say. It gives you a big smile. Yeah, but it's for real. It's for real. If you treat them as money, so they're going to feel that it's all about money, and they're going to feel that they want to guard their money. But if you treat them as people, so they're going to feel that you're interested in the person, in which case they would be much more interested in spending. Now, of course, you want them to spend. But there's nothing wrong, but rather than pretending that you're a good person in order to have them spend, you might as well just be a good person. And if that's what really makes the sale, so then it'll work. And now everybody's happy. They've made the sale. They feel good about the sale. They feel good dying here, and they feel about coming back. So, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is just the flattery. I think we spoke about this not too long ago. I think, the salespeople that tell you anything looks good on you, even when it doesn't, just to make the sale. So, when a salesperson starts doing that, I usually walk out. Because it's just a lie. It's not real. How can I, Or I take somebody whose opinion I rely on. Anyway, I think we're up to the fourth one, right? So we're talking here about somebody who hooks up, he becomes friendly with the wicked person, and he doesn't criticize him in any way. So not only does he not criticize him, yeah, Aval Mosif, second line on Kuf Samir Ches, Aval Mosif od onesh, but he adds punishment. Al hikrivu shehu mikarvo, but he's actually accountable for connecting with him. Shenemar, as it says, Bihischabercho im Achaziyahu paratz Hashem es ma'asecha. In your connecting, and I don't know, it's a pasuk, I don't remember who it's referring to, but somebody's being criticized for making an alliance, connecting himself with Achaziyahu, the wicked king. And the result of this, paratz Hashem es ma'asecha, God has breached your deeds. Again, I suppose if the point is to try and establish some relationship with this person in order to help the person come back to Torah, that would be a different story. But Tzaddikim moasim harishoim. But the righteous, they're disgusted by the wicked. Or you have to talk about, or here you're talking about a person who is consciously and brazenly wicked, and not just somebody who's, let's say, not observant. And the sages of blessed memory said, Lo lechinam holoch hazarzir etzel ha'oirev. It wasn't by accident that the zarzir, a certain small type of bird, went to the orev, the crow. Ela shehu minoi. Rather, they are like a kin. So I don't know exactly what type of bird the zarzir is. Basically, this is the sage's way of saying birds of a feather. They flock together. So if you hang out with wicked people, even if you yourself are not that way, the fact that you are drawn to these people, tolerate their behavior, is indication that you also have, right, those tendencies. That's not a good thing. Furthermore, it says, Kol of lemino yishkoin. Different type, basically, birds of a feather flock together. Kol of lemino, every bird according to its type, yishkoin, dwells together. Uben adam l'domelo, and people the same way. You can tell a person by his friends. V'omru, and the sages said in Megillah, also distakel b'tzelem dmus adam rasha, you may not look in the face of a wicked person, the countenance of a wicked person. Shneimar, it says, Lule pnei Yehoshaphat, melech Yehuda, and he didn't say, Im obit alecha v'im ereka. Here, the prophet would not look even in the face of the wicked person, let alone spend time with him, because his ways are going to rub off on us. Anybody who looks in the face of the wicked person, his eyes will become dull at old age. Basically, what he's saying is that a person looks at wicked things, a person looks at impure things, so it actually it damages this, I guess, the spiritual underpinnings of one's physical eyesight. So therefore, a person should be careful not even to look at the face of a wicked person. Ki Yitzchak Avinu, alav hashalom, like Yitzchak, who became blinded. Why? Sheko einav mipnei shistakel be'esav, because he looked at Esav.
That was his son.
Yeah, his son. Esav would side befiv. He ensnared him with his mouth. And even though he did not know at the time, he was fooled by Esav. He didn't realize that he was wicked. Still, the negative energy that was emanating from the face of Esav ultimately blinded Yitzchak. Maybe this is the source behind some people's custom not to, look at impure things like impure animals, like dogs or cats. Or more specifically, like pigs. I don't know, if you're going to not look at pigs, you might as well not look at other animals as well. But people are careful, for example, to these little, toys for children. They won't buy the children non-kosher animals, like a pig.
But what makes a human being wicked? It's the fact that he has free will and chooses the wrong decision. Animals don't have free will. Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, although that they're impure. I mean, they're impure. They're described in the Torah as being impure. It's just a suggestion. I mean, I'm not saying that a person has to do this. I'm just wondering if it might have to do with that. Maybe some people are careful, either not to look or not to have their children look upon these things. What? That's probably that's probably yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's sure. I mean, the TV is just full of unacceptable content anyway. Yeah. There's another stumbling block in connecting oneself to wicked people. It turns out that he would show affinity towards, meaning love, a person who denies God. And a faithful servant would not hook up with the people, with his master's enemies. The second pitfall is he learns from his deeds. Right? If you're going to wallow in the mud, you're going to get dirty. You can't say, I'm going to go with them, but I'm not going to do that. It doesn't work that way. It's just a matter of time till you start doing the same thing. Initially, it's just going there. Then it's talking the talk. Then it's walking the walk, and then it's doing the deed. Hashlishi, the third pitfall. When people see you with these people, they'll say, well, if he can be with them, so they must be okay. He's misleading them. And then they'll also be affected negatively. And even if they won't learn from him, even if they don't end up doing anything, but they see it. And that's damaging. You're not supposed to see improper things. And furthermore, I think the person himself who's wicked, he won't repent. Because if they rebuked him and they separated themselves from him, he would, I don't know if it's necessarily guaranteed, but there's a reason to assume that he would return and mend his ways. One who connects to a wicked person, the soifa rasha moishel alav, ultimately this wicked person will gain control over him. And that's the worst thing. Empowering the wicked person. Once you go in, you enter into some type of relationship with him. So like every relationship, there's a certain give and take, right? And sometimes a person decides to take a lot in order to be able to maintain a relationship, take a lot of abuse. So if a good person goes into some type of relationship with a wicked person, every relationship is going to involve some give and take, and he's going to end up having to give up a lot of things in order to maintain this relationship. And that's no good. He's actually going to be placing himself at the disposal of, under the control of this wicked person. And now that he has some influence over him, he'll ultimately, either directly or indirectly, prevent him from doing good deeds. Let's say you had a relationship where, in order to maintain this relationship, you had to do certain things or show interest in certain things, which are not necessarily, let's say, prohibited, but they're not, they're not considered not the best things as far as Torah is concerned, the Torah lifestyle. But in order to maintain the relationship, you've got to do this thing, because if you don't do it, or show interest in it, or be willing to talk about it, then the other person's just not going to maintain a relationship with you. So that can go on and on and on. So over time, you find yourself all of a sudden spending less and less time learning Torah, and more time, talking about sports, then going to the games, and then being, on top of the stats, and the whole thing. It all started because you had to compromise in order to maintain this relationship. Now, if it's your parent or your sibling, so, of course, there's more of a justification to maintain a nice relationship with your close family, even if it means compromising the time you spend Torah and so forth and so on. But even that, it can be a problem. Let's say it's like a friend. But because of this friendship, he's demanding a lot of your time in ways which you would rather not spend. You're only doing it to maintain this relationship. A person can start to feel like he becomes drained and depleted. It's like, I got to get out of this relationship. This is no good for me. And either explicitly or indirectly, cut things off. Right? What's that person going to feel at that point? Yeah, exactly. A sigh of relief. Like, whew, wow. Whew, I'm free. Yeah? So we don't realize that the relationships that we have with people, they make claims on us. And they should, because that's what a relationship is. The question is, what is the claim and at what expense? And sometimes we get embroiled in relationships where there are a lot of claims or claims on things which aren't really the best for us, and it becomes stifling and suffocating. We don't realize it until we want to break loose of it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, whew, I feel much better. I can finally do that, X or Y or Z, whatever the case may be. So if you're talking about a relationship with a wicked person, that's exacerbated even more. The fourth thing is, this relationship is by fear causing a person to refrain from doing good things. Therefore, a person has to be very careful not to become friends, not to be overly friendly with people other than those who are God-fearing. Reish Lakish, Yimisha haya medaber b'shuk, hayu ma'aminim lo yischara v'lo edim. He gives an example here that Reish Lakish, one of the righteous rabbis of the Talmud, if he was seen just having a conversation with somebody in the marketplace, people who saw him would be doing this, would be willing to enter into business dealings with the people that he spoke to without even knowing who they were. If he spoke to them, the fact that he spoke to them, just the fact that he spoke to them and was seen speaking to them in public is a sign that that's a reliable person. From the context, I think you have to say here that you see, because he wouldn't speak to anybody else. He wouldn't speak to. He wouldn't speak to somebody unless this person was a righteous person. So anybody he was seen speaking to in public, yeah, other people know this is the person you're going to rely on. This is interesting because Reish Lakish didn't have the most illustrious beginnings, as you know. Reish Lakish was the head of the Jewish mafia. Yeah, he was the gangster par excellence. And he was walking by the bank of the Jordan River one day, and he saw Rabbi Yochanan, who was very attractive. And Reish Lakish was taken aback by Rabbi Yochanan's beauty. And he made some remark about it. So Rabbi Yochanan said, if you think I'm attractive, you should see my sister. You mean you got a sister who's even better looking than you, Rabbi? The rabbi says, you want a date? He says, yeah. So he says, well, come on over and take a walk on the wild side. Come walk over on my side of the river. So Reish Lakish took a step or two backwards and boom, in one leap, he jumped over the whole length of the Jordan River. That's how strong he was. So I got to talking to Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan, of course, started speaking to him inspirational words. You know, if you want such a beautiful woman, you have to know that you have to lead a very beautiful lifestyle, that of the Torah, and so forth and so on. Reish Lakish agreed to live a Torah lifestyle, and ultimately he did become Rabbi Yochanan's brother-in-law, but not before trying to get across the other side of the river back again, when he plots right in the middle of the river on the way back. And when I asked what happened, he leaped over such prowess on the way in. It says, Torah metisha koicha shel adam. The Torah, when a person accepts upon himself the weighty responsibility of the Torah, it has an effect of weakening a person's physical strength. Weakening a person's physical strength. He becomes stronger in other ways. If anybody saw his biceps when he came to the yeshiva, he'd be taken aback. Yeah? Yeah, now look at his spiritual muscles. He flexes them and we see light. But Reish Lakish is interesting. I guess, if Rabbi Yochanan had taken his approach, namely not to speak to anybody unless he was a tzaddik, then Reish Lakish would have never been willing to take a walk on the wild side. But he himself, once he came over, apparently was more selective in who he spoke about, who he spoke to. Yeah. So, that's an interesting difference. Maybe if you're raised as Rabbi Yochanan was raised, you could be more liberal about who you're. But when you're raised as Reish Lakish is raised, maybe you have to be more selective and more careful. Yeah? Because once you have that virus in you, you're susceptible. You're susceptible. And therefore you have to be more careful. If you've never had that virus, maybe you're not as susceptible. That's one possible explanation. Another possible explanation is that Reish Lakish would not speak liberally to just anybody in public. But about Rabbi Yochanan speaking to Reish Lakish, that was in private. Nobody else was around. And Rabbi Yochanan saw Reish Lakish, this bandit, right? So he engaged him in this conversation with the intention of doing kiruv on him, being makaravim. Maybe these would be different. In any case, we have to finish off this paragraph. They knew that if Reish Lakish was willing to speak to somebody in public, that person must be kosher. So that might be the emphasis on public. Yeah? Reish Lakish knew that people's eyes were on him. And therefore he was extra careful not to speak to anybody unless this person was reliable. And if there was a person he would speak to in public, therefore everybody knew that he was a reliable person. You see from here, therefore, the power of connecting to a person and the possible flattery that might be involved in it as well if it's done in the wrong context in the wrong way. Okay, we have to end here for today. We'll continue B'ezrat Hashem next time on the 5th.